With Loving Hands by Rihanna on AO3. Summary. Izuku wakes up abruptly to the smell of burning fabric. For a moment he's dazed, disoriented. His eyes blearily focus on the clock at the nightstand. 3:27 a.m. Something is wrong. What is it? He hears something behind him, a whimper. Suddenly he's wide awake, cold fear rushing down his spine. He turns quickly, the covers catching around his waist, to find Katsuki writhing in pain next to him. Eyes shut screwed, explosive hands fisted in the sheets. Izuku's stomach felt like it was in his gut. Another nightmare. It had been a while since he'd had one this bad. Katsuki has a panic attack, and Izuku is there to take care of him. Izuku wakes up abruptly to the smell of burning fabric. For a moment he's dazed, disoriented. His eyes barely focus on the clock on the nightstand. 3:27 a.m. Something is wrong. What is it? He hears something behind him, a whimper. Suddenly, he's wide awake, cold fear rushing down his spine. He turns quickly, the covers catching around his waist, to find Katsuki writhing in pain next to him. Eyes screwed shut, explosive hands fisting in the sheets. Izuku's stomach feels like it's leading into his gut. Another nightmare. It's been a while since he had one this bad. But at least he's here. He's safe. Some of Izuku's knees jerk, panic recedes. Kachan, Izuku calls gently, running a smooth hand along Katsuki's arm. Katsuki shoulders violently but doesn't wake. Kachan, you're okay. Come back to me. The smell is getting worse. Smoke rising from Katsuki's clenched fist. It's only a nightmare. You can wake up, Kachan. Katsuki thrashes up, one arm abruptly reaching up in front of him as he startles himself awake. Eyes are wide, frantic in near darkness. Don't come, Deku! He shouts, tears spinning at his corners of his eyes. His chest is heaving, his breath quickened and labored. Izuku holds his hands up, hovering them just beside Katsuki. Ah, it's that nightmare again. You're safe, Kachan, he says softly. It was just a dream. I'm here. Katsuki doesn't seem to hear him, his eyes unseething, breath coming faster and faster. His legs have become tangled in the sheets, sometime during the night, and he started tearing at them, trying to free them. Let me go! Let me go! He yells, borderline hysterical. A series of pops goes off and the sheets are shredded, holes singed into the pajama pants. He starts crawling at his chest, his throat. I can't breathe, he chokes out, tears rolling freely down his face. Izuku slowly moves to Katsuki's field of vision, kneeling next to him. Kachan, he calls. Kachan, you're okay. Katsuki's eyes finally lock onto him, wide and glossy, but he's still hyperventilating, lost in a haze of panic. Deku? Katsuki asks, his voice so small and fragile that it breaks Izuku's heart into 1,000 pieces. I'm here, Kachan. Izuku reaches out for his still shaking hand and pulls them towards him. Katsuki weakly resists, still grasping for breath. No. I'm dangerous. I'll hurt you. Izuku shushes him, placing Katsuki's hand on his bare chest. They've been through this before, and the tiny explosions barely sting. You're not hurting me. We're going to breathe together, and everything's going to be okay. Can you feel me breathing, Kachan? I need you to concentrate. Katsuki nods, a jerk thing, his hands shaking. You're doing so well, Kachan. Try breathing with me. Izuku takes a breath, slowly, then lets it out again. Over and over, he breathes slightly, letting Katsuki match the rise and fall of his chest. It's slowly going. Sometimes Katsuki backpedals into fear, his breath speaking back up and sobs crackling his frame. But eventually he becomes calm. His hands stop shaking so much like they were, resting against Izuku's chest. His eyes seem a little less clouded, more present. Are you back with me? Izuku asks softly. Deku? Katsuki whispers, like it's the only words he'd known, voice wrecked. Izuku carefully puts Katsuki towards him, wrapping him in his arms. I'm right here. You're okay, he says, pulling Katsuki impossibly closer. Izuku could feel his tremble. It takes a moment for Izuku's words to sink in, but once they do, Katsuki breathes. He clungs onto Izuku, his chest heaving with barely responsible sobs. Izuku feels tears perkle at his own. He hates seeing Katsuki in pain like this. I thought I was... Katsuki's breath's off. Izuku strokes the back of his hair smoothly, soothing it off of the sweat forehead. I thought I was back there. You were gonna get hurt because of me. So I had to. I had to. Izuku gently shushes him. I'm alright, Kachan. No one's gonna hurt me, he whispers. It was just a nightmare, I promise. I love you so much. Katsuki only cries harder, burying his face into Izuku's neck, overwhelmed. Izuku holds him there until the tears start to slow, rubbing warm circles on his back, humming softly under his breath, whispering reassurances. Izuku lets himself be comforted, which shows more than anything how far they've come. He slowly quiets in Izuku's arms, soothed by Izuku's sweet voice and warm embrace. After a while, he pulls back, reaching up to rub his eyes, sniffling a little. He looks to the side, reassuring to meet Izuku's gaze. He looks exhausted and a little more embarrassed. He says roughly, but Izuku cuts him off. Don't apologize, Kachan. Katsuki levels a half glare at him, not appreciating the interruption. Izuku reaches up to gently clasp his face, wiping away the tears with a gentle thumb. I'm serious, Kachan. You haven't done anything to apologize for. Yeah, well, I'm fine now, Katsuki says, lowly, turning his face away from Izuku's hand. Izuku could see him start to close off. You can go back to sleep. Izuku looks at the disaster zone of their bed. That's clearly not what's gonna happen now, but Izuku knows that Izuku's pride is what it is. Hey, Izuku whispers. Stay with me. He pleads, moving his hand to Katsuki's chin and turning him to face Izuku again. Let me take care of you. Katsuki soughed lightly, still dozing his gaze, but doesn't protest. Maybe he's simply too tired, or maybe he realizes that this is something Izuku needs just as much as he does. Izuku leans forward to kiss him softly. Thank you, Izuku says, against his lips. I'll be right back. It's the middle of the night, and they have work in the morning, but Izuku gets up and runs a bath anyway. Once the tub is filled, he goes back to the bedroom and helps Katsuki undress, pulling his shirt over his head and throwing away the ruined pajama pants. Izuku's chest aches seeing the self-inflicted burns on Katsuki's thighs. He'd have to remember to put some oil on them later. He leads Katsuki into the bathroom and helps put him into the bath. Katsuki rolls his eyes at him, but lets him do so. Once Katsuki is sinked into the warm water, already visible starting to relax, Izuku ducks back into the bedroom to strip the ruined sheets and remakes the bed. He shucks his own boxers and throws them in the laundry as well. He comes back to the bath to find Katsuki leaning against the tub with his head hanging over the edge, eyes closed. Izuku can't help himself. He leans down and drops a kiss on Katsuki's forehead. Eyes flutter open and stare at him, but Katsuki stays silent. Izuku pulls over the stool and sits behind Katsuki, who regards him upside down. You look real dumb from this angle, Deku, he croaks, with a pale intimidation of his usual smirk. Very nice, Kachan. Izuku huffs out a laugh under his breath. Can I wash your hair? He asks, knowing Katsuki will say yes. Katsuki would never admit it, but Izuku knows he loves it when Izuku washes his hair for him. Sure enough, Katsuki's eyes slide shut again, and he grunts his assessment. Izuku grabs his head from the wall and tests the water on his arm, making sure it's warm enough. He carefully wets Katsuki's hair, brushing it back from his forehead with gentle fingers. Izuku's heart is throbbing. Katsuki is painfully handsome like this. Trusting and so vulnerable, that Katsuki will let him do this for him, that all means the world to Izuku. He turns off the water and reaches over for the bottle of shampoo. He pours some in his hand and starts working it into Katsuki's hair. His scattered hands are gentle and though massaging the stubs through Katsuki's corn silk hair. Katsuki hums with pleasure when Izuku scrapes his nails against his scalp. He takes a shower head and rinses out the shampoo, watching the bubbles swirl down the drain of the floor. He repeats this process with conditioner, using the fancy brand Katsuki insists on. It smells like cinnamon and something earthy, like Sinar maybe, and it makes Izuku think of him when he catches a whiff of his own hair. It slides easily through the strands of Katsuki's hair, so Izuku endures it himself, watches the fine lines of Katsuki's face as he works the conditioner in for a little longer than necessary. His breathing is slow and even again, to Izuku's great relief. Katsuki cracks one eye open to peer up at him. Izuku smiles down at him and leans to press a kiss on the tip of his nose. Katsuki wrinkles it cutely. Get on with it, Deku. It's the middle of the night, he grumps, voice still hoarse. Yes, Kachan, he replies, stiffening a yawn into his shoulders. He washes the conditioner and sets the shower head back in its perch. He grabs a fluffy towel and waits for Izuku to pull himself up, loosely limped, from the tub. Izuku wraps him in the towel, and Katsuki complains, but allows himself to be gently toweled by his loving hands. Once they're dry, Izuku pulls him up by the hand into the dark bedroom, coats him into a freshly made bed, and pulls Katsuki close, cradling his head against his chest, and twines their legs together. Feel better, Kachan? Izuku asks softly, already starting to drift off. Katsuki doesn't say anything, but Izuku could feel the answer in his bonus lassitude, his quiet breath against Izuku's neck. Sleep well. I love you, he whispers against Katsuki's temple. Just before he falls asleep, he thinks he hears Katsuki respond, his voice so low and soft and painfully earnest. Love you too, Izu. This is such a cute fanfic. This is just so adorable. It's a cute one shot. I always love it when fanfics have Bakugou remembering the sludge villain attack, because like there's a lot of things that My Hero Academia doesn't address. Like I would love if like they got into a little bit of the more mental stuff, like with Todoroki, Bakugou, Deku. Like I would love to get more into Bakugou's inner workings and his mentality and like his complexes and how he has a, obviously a complex of like I'm the best, but also has a complex of if I'm not the best then I'm the worst kind of thing. With Todoroki, his whole abuse, because you cannot tell me that that was not child abuse, because it was completely child abuse. And then just Deku growing up being bullied and stuff, and just the whole quirkless culture and all of that, and quirk culture in general. I would love to see a whole lot more of that than what we normally see in the canon. And, fanfics come in handy with giving me that. I love it. So, I love this fanfic. I'm so grateful to be able to share it with you guys. As always, make sure to eat, sleep, drink water, take your meds, have a wonderful day or night, and thank you so much for watching.